Welcome, welcome, welcome. Dumela, Saubona, Sakpase, Namaste, Upshin, Dubraota, Assalamu alaikum, Hotep even. Buenas noches, bonsoir, and good evening. Welcome to our sixth episode of the Lott Carey Women in Service Everywhere Wise Digital Couch. My name is Doria Larrier, the host of this chat, and I am so blessed and excited for us to be here tonight. Here on the Lott Carey Wise Digital Couch, we engage in mission-minded, conscious conversations with local, national, and global partners. And tonight, our episode 6 is with none other than the person who will be our first. Let's all shout out our first female president of the Lott Carey Convention. Let's welcome the Reverend Dr. Gina Stewart. There will be some housekeeping, which is what we're going to do right now. So on behalf of the leadership of the Lott Carey Convention, where we have our executive secretary, Reverend Emmett T. Dunn, our president, Reverend Greg Jackson, our first vice president, who is our guest tonight, the Reverend Dr. Gina Stewart, our second vice president, Reverend Jesse Williams, and then for our Women in Service Everywhere, we have our first vice president, Dr. Angelita Clifton. A moment of silence for Sister Rosette Graham.
Amen.
And second vice president for Dr. Brenda McBurrow. We wish you well here tonight. We are so amazed. This is our launch event of having this session broadcasted on not only the Lott Carey Wise Facebook page, but Lott Carey TV. Since this is our launch, this is what I need for you to do. Prior to today, we have not broadcasted on a public platform directly connected with Lott Carey. So because it is our launch event on Lott Carey TV, we need for you to do 3 little things. We need for you to subscribe. We need for you to click that little notifications bell so that every single time that we go live, you get a notification. And then, as they always say, like and comment. Like and comment. So like, comment, and subscribe. Welcome, Reverend Dr. Gina Stewart.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Sister Doriel. Glad to be here tonight. And congratulations on the launching of the Lott Carey TV. And I am a subscriber.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. So thank you. And so I'm going to pause every once in a while to read some comments from some of your parishioners who are shouting you out already in the chat. I'm so excited.
Thanks for the love. Thanks for the love.
Beautiful. So you can actually, folks, take that URL of what you're watching or click that little share button and just share it to every single person that you know so that we can encourage more people to put their eyes on Lott Carey, because Lott Carey has their eyes on the world. Right? All right. Here on the Digital Couch, we do 2 things on the first Thursday, of every month. We do talk to either one of our local, national, or global partners. And so we sit, we chat, we kick back a little bit, and we make sure that we have our little teacup. And because it is also on, see how our president is representing with the Lott Carey mug? We have to get a Lott Carey mug, okay? And we are also twinning today because it is Thursdays. And on Thursdays, everyone in the Lott Carey community does their best to show up in Black, because the global populace focuses Thursdays in Black because we are against gender-based violence. So even if you don't catch us here on a Lott Carey Wise Digital Couch, make sure that you show up in Black. Black on Black. Some of you will catch that. And then post a picture of yourself on our Lott Carey Wise Facebook page. Yes, Thursdays in Black. Thank you so much, Dr. Clifton. So we're going to have a little kickback conversation. It is, let me give you a little bit of history for those of you who are maybe new to Lott Carey, but have been invited by someone else. So sorry about that. Excuse me. 1897. 1897. Some of us know that is a pivotal year. It is the year that a group of people got together and said, you know what? In Washington, D.C., they decided, African American Baptists decided that they were going to be committed to the work of foreign missions. 1897 is the first time that they got together and they said, we may be here, but there are people back home. And wherever back home was, for some people, was different. But there are lots of people back home who need to hear the gospel, who need to be cared for, who need to be thought about, who need to be prayed for. Let's get together and help them. 124 years later, I almost want to have a Star Wars moment. We are welcoming now our first female president of this beloved organization. And she's right there. So we're going to chit chat for a little bit about her journey, her current roles, her mind, which is on missions, not just here, but nationally and internationally, and what she's thinking of doing in the next few years to serve us and to serve the people who need some God love. If you have a question, please drop it in the comments and I will be able to see most of them. And if you have not already done so, because StreamYard, the platform that we are using, will only identify you if you say your name. Other than that, I'll have to say, hi, Facebook user. Hi, YouTube user. So make sure that you're dropping who you are and especially where you're from, like what state, what church are you representing. Let's get into it.
All right.
All right. So we are, we're just amazed that it has taken the time that it has taken for us to get to this point where we are electing our first female president. And you wear many hats. I know some of the hats. Some people know some of the hats, but not everybody knows some of the hats. What are some of the hats that you wear? And when you share some of those hats that you do wear, how do you balance all of this? How do you do it?
Well, first of all, let me thank you again for this invitation to be on the digital couch, and let me also acknowledge our leadership, Secretary Dunn and President Jackson, and second Vice President Jesse Williams, and Dr. Angelita Clifton, who has done a great job in the absence and in following the death of Rosette Graham. You're right. I do wear, and hello to everybody who's tuned in tonight, and thank you for watching. Special shout out, especially to the members of CNBC who have tuned in. I do wear a number of hats. First of all, I am a sister. My parents are deceased, but I'm a daughter. I am a sister-in-law. I am Auntie Rev. I am a friend, sister girl. I have friends, girlfriends, and friends and colleagues. I am a pastor and a minister. I've served for the last 26 years as the senior pastor of Christ Missionary Baptist Church, which is also the church where I was raised and where I was nurtured and also mentored for ministry. I also am in school pursuing a PhD in African American preaching and sacred rhetoric. Thankfully, I am finished with my coursework and I am now in the process of completing my comprehensive exams. So I solicit prayers for that assignment, for the completion of that assignment. I also serve on the national board of the NAACP. I serve on that board. I'm in my second term on the board. And in serving on that board, I also serve as the chairperson of the Religious Affairs Committee for the NAACP. I am the first vice president of Lott, Carey. And in this fall, actually, the first class started in this past month, this month, July. I will be serving as a mentor for womanist preaching track at the seminary. And I also work as an adjunct professor at Virginia Union University for the School of Theology, Samuel DeWitt Proctor School
Yes,
of
yes.
Theology. I'm a trustee for uh, the Proctor Conference, and I'm also a co-convener for all the women in ministry for the Women in Ministry Conference, which the convener for that conference is Dr. Cynthia Hale, a good friend and colleague. And we have a conference every year in September. So, and then, all of the other boards and things that I serve on. So, yes, I do wear many hats. And your question, how do I balance? I don't know that there's really, I don't even know if that's really possible, that you can really balance because, when you're really busy, you're juggling a lot of balls at the same time. But I can say that having multiple responsibilities and competing demands, and sometimes all those demands converging at the same time, has meant learning how to prioritize. I mean, there are a number of things that I could say, but one of the main things as I think about your question is learning how to prioritize because not everything that's important is not just necessarily urgent, or everything that's urgent is not necessarily important. And so
Right.
one of the things that I do know is that my first responsibility is a pastor. Before I do anything else, I'm a pastor. And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
my first priority is to Christ Missionary Baptist Church and to the members of Christ Missionary Baptist Church. And then, of course, there are other priorities based on my leadership roles in the various organizations that I serve. I've also learned the importance of not only prioritizing what's important, but also delegation. I would say the second thing is learning to delegate. Not every need is necessarily my assignment
Right.
or necessarily something that requires my attention. And I'm grateful to have a very supportive staff and volunteers who are very committed to our ministry and who are quite capable and competent. It's one of the reasons, in addition to everything else that I do, pre-pandemic, many of you know that I had a very heavy itinerant schedule, which meant that, not only was I pastoring, but I was also doing revivals and workshops and things like
Okay.
that. So, one of the things that has been a tremendous blessing has been having staff and volunteers who help to lift the load and lighten the burden. And then, of course, I would say the third thing would be learning that no is not a bad word, and setting boundaries and leaving room for margin. This is a lesson that I've learned lately, because I was one of those types of person. I was the type of person who has a tendency to, as my friend Dr. Elaine Flake says, you say yes when you're not tired, but then when it's time to deliver, you're wondering, why did I say yes?
Right.
Because I wasn't tired when I said yes. So I'm learning to leave margin, and I'm also realizing that part of this is a stewardship issue, thanks to the pastoral excellence program that I
Yes.
participated in for several years as a team leader. One of the things that they really emphasized to us was learning that we can't do everything, and so learning that we have to make room for emergencies, for unexpected events, leaving margins so that we don't become burnt out because we only have one body to do this work in. So
Right.
I would say those are some of the things that I do. And of course, I'm very committed to Sabbath. I'm very committed to taking breaks. As a matter of fact, we've instituted at our church breaks, quarterly breaks. So, because the staff works hard and they have really been a tremendous blessing in this pandemic. And so we've been doing breaks: a spring break, a summer break, a fall break, and a winter break, because we only have one body to do this work in.
So does that break look like after Sunday service, the
Right,
office will be closed not on just on Monday, but maybe
right.
Monday through Thursday? What does
Mo-
that look like?
From Sunday to Sunday.
Okay.
Our church actually has a 3-day work week. We work, and of course, because of the pandemic, for the most part, we're still working
Sure.
remotely. Although we are doing things in person. We live stream our worship experience but we also do outreach every week.
Okay.
So there are some things that we do in person. My mantra during this pandemic has been that the building is closed, but the church is open for business.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
to answer your immediate question, when we take the break, it begins on Sunday and we return back on Sunday. And it gives everybody an opportunity to break. So it's not like the pastor is out and everybody else is working.
Right.
Everybody gets a break at the same time.
That's beautiful. So you actually, in part, um, I guess, gave the backdrop to the answer for the second question that I had, which was, do women in your position have a hard time getting noticed or recognized or promoted? You just gave the answer to that, because as a result of course, as you say, of your stewardship and of course of your competency, of your connections, of your collaborations, it seems like I'm running on a C theme here. That you have definitely moved through different rooms in order to get noticed, in order to get recognized, in order to get promoted, and again to be in different rooms. And I'm certain that has to do, of course, with God's hand on you, but also your acumen. Also your not just your kindness to others, but your study, your focus, your determination. When we spoke prior to this, there was, let's say, a shifting in thought of what we would actually focus on for this. And I was very proud. And let me say to all of you that Dr. Gina Stewart said, you know what? I know you have questions here, but what I would like to do is to focus on what? Inspiring
Women.
other women, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And right. And so already we're about like 17 minutes in, and I'm tired because I'm saying, okay, you've done all this. We have a ways to go, women who are listening and the men who love us. Like, she's setting the stage. This is good. So, but do you feel like you have, and this is going to be actually a part of another question. Do you feel that you've had some barriers, or maybe some doors that had windows that you could see through, and someone gave you the little hint about this is how you open that door? Could you share some of that? Because, a lot of us are sitting looking at glass ceilings. We know that there's room at a table, but sometimes they don't let us know where the chair is.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes there is no chair.
You got to stand, but you're going to stand in the room.
So, well, I would first of all say that for women, there are always exceptions. And there are always instances where women do, as they say, crack the glass ceiling. But in a very real sense, that glass ceiling still exists. And because of sexism and patriarchy and misogyny, sexism, which basically induces this notion of inferiority on women based on gender, and patriarchy, which suggests that we live in a world that is dominated and ruled by men, and misogyny, which has to do with just basically the hatred of women or the dislike or hostility toward women. All of those three things play a role in the barriers that women often encounter, not just in society, but in the church and in society as well. And so those barriers are real. And of course, as I've said before, while there are women who have been able to put some cracks in the ceiling, it's very challenging for women to move in certain leadership roles. I mean, we could just talk about the church for an example. I've been pastoring for 26 years. I was elected to serve our congregation, but we also know that when we look at the numbers, if we just look at the data, in 26 years, while there are women who are now pastoring and who have been elected to churches, in many instances, women still end up having to start their own work, or they end up working as executive pastors, administrators, etc., in congregations. Some congregations, depending on their denomination, depending on the denomination, and in some instances, the bylaws will not even consider a woman. So sexism and all those three things, those triplets, sexism, patriarchy, and misogyny, certainly do run interference when it comes to women ascending to positions of power in leadership, not because we don't possess the skill set or the giftings or even the passion or the competence, but because there are systems in place that prohibit and often work against us. Just like we talk about racism as a system that often works against people of color, the same is true for women who are gifted to serve and gifted to lead, but often are overlooked because of those realities.
I thank you very much for sharing that. In your 26 years of being the senior pastor at your church, and of course the other names that or organizations that you have a seat at the table for, who are some of the, let's talk about the church, who are some of the female ministers? You actually, we mentioned one actually last night when we were prepping. And yes, so folks, when we do this, this is not a cold call. It may seem like a cold call. It's not a cold call. There is some prep work because we have to make sure that we're all on point. But who are some female ministers who have maybe opened that door, or maybe said, this is how you get in? Who are some of those women that you would, let's say, nod your head, give the head nod to?
Well, when you ask that question, I think about something that Dr. Frank Thomas often says. He says that there are people who speak your name into destiny.
Hmm.
And sometimes we don't even know who those persons are uh, because they say our name and they don't tell us that they are actually speaking our name. And in all honesty, there have been women and men who have spoken my name into destiny and who have, because of their recommendation, because of their referrals, have opened doors. And some of them I only found out on a fluke or by way of conversation. Dr. Valerie Bridgman, for example, is a person who has, and she doesn't even know that I know this. I just found out. But for example, I've published in certain publications, Those Preaching Women, and
Okay.
also Dr. Kim Johnson, Proclaiming Rhetoric from the Pulpit. I have sermons in both of those books. Both of those books have my sermons because Dr. Valerie Bridgman she's now the dean at the Methodist School of Theology in Ohio. She spoke my name. I ended up preaching at the Hampton Ministers Conference because Dr. William Curtis, when he became president of the Hamptons Ministers Conference, decided that he would invite me to preach. And I ended up preaching the night service because Bishop Claude Alexander extended an invitation. I'm participating in Lott Carey because Dr. David Goatley, who was once my professor at Memphis Theological Seminary, called me one day while I was in the hairstylist chair and said, "Would you be interested in serving as a team leader for Lott Carey?" And then, of course, there were women in our church. Many of them were not pastors. They were not ministers. They were faithful lay leaders in the church. Felicia Sarden,
Hmm.
Moselle Starks, who was the superintendent of Sunday school. Strong women who believed in pushing other women. I can remember when Alberta Snell, no, not Alberta Snell, Felicia Sarden said to me, "I think it's about time that you start teaching a Sunday school class." These were the women who saw something in me that I had yet to apprehend myself, but who believed in the gifts and graces that were on my life, and they would advocate for me. Felicia Sarden was the person that, after I accepted my call to ministry, stayed on my pastor. She's like, "Okay, we need to give Gina a date to preach."
Okay.
She's accepted her call to ministry. We need to give Gina a date to preach. When I came along, there weren't a lot of women in ministry. There were not a lot of role models. Most of my mentors were books, and they were
Hmm.
persons that mentored me from afar. That's how I was mentored. Many of the women who were actually preachers in terms of their gifting and their passion because of our denominational position in that at that time, were not allowed to preach. There was a Nancy Evans who was obviously a preacher,
Hmm.
but never really acknowledged the call that I know of. There was Nettie Rogers, who
Okay.
was she called herself an evangelist, but was never really fully recognized as a preacher. So many of those women were not necessarily preachers, but they were certainly church women, and they exercised a type of informal authority that made it possible for people like myself to stand where I stand today. And of course, my pastor, Reverend Eddie L. Carey, who was a tremendous advocate for women in ministry, and an advocate in my own life, was very instrumental. And there are just I mean, one of my primary mentors was Reverend Shirley Prince. She's gone home to be with the Lord now, but she was certainly very instrumental in helping to shape me as a person, and a preacher.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm looking in the comments, and there are people flooding the comments, not just on Facebook, but also on YouTube. So, and I have to give a special shout out to Sister Jean Greer, who is our first episode. It was Sister Jean Greer and Sister Mary Hall, who are, the champions of Lott, Carey, and I hear that they were some of the first people up at the, what was it, 5 o'clock a.m. prayer call.
The prayer call, yeah.
I didn't make many of those, I have to tell you. I made a couple, but not many. But I have to give them a shout out. And then I also want to just remind us that we also had Reverend Harewood from Guyana,
Yeah.
the superintendent of the Baptist pastors in Guyana. I believe I'm saying this correctly. We had Reverend Namdo in South Africa of Global Teen Challenge. I'm trying to remember correctly. We had Reverend Boissier here as well, and then Reverend Greg Jackson, our president, and now we are living it up here. So I'm just going to take a little station break. Whoever is here on Facebook, I need for you to open up a new tab if you can, and go and follow and subscribe us on YouTube so that we can build up our numbers, because we only had 311. I need to at least see a clear 400 by the time we finish this. Okay, can we do that? Let's do that. Thank you so much for sharing. And so we do have a lot of note takers. I am a firm believer, and I'm doing a little teaching here. When you hear something, just like we do in church, when we hear a good word in the sermon, we may say amen or go on or say that. In the social media world, type the comment in. Whatever resonates with your heart, your head, or your hands, if they go up in the air, type it in the comments, because it lets us know some of the things we thought about saying, but some of the things just sort of like fly off the cuff. But those are the things that actually will really pull and push us to do greater missional work and work for the church and work for the world. Those are the things that we need to know, that you hear and that you are taking apart, and then we'll take action once we finish this conversation. So please drop it in the chat, and then I'll read off some of them in a few moments. Your work here initially is at your church.
Right.
That is where your heart rests. But your work in your new role will take you, of course, across the country and across the world. In your new role as our president, what are some global interests that you have to reach? Here's the focus: young female global leaders. Because you've done a lot of work. When you walk in the room, you're better than E.F. Hutton. You walk in the room and say, oh, this is Gina Stewart. Oh, can I get your autograph? Can I just stand next to you and just let some of the glow rub off? Well, you're gonna be taking most of this message, over as we say, the highways and the byways. But what would you like to inspire women on the other side, to do, to be, and to consider?
Well, one of the things, well, let me just say this before I say this. You ask about other women, and certainly I thank God for all of the women of Lott Carey who have been a great inspiration and a great encouragement. Dr. Angelita Clifton, who has just been tremendous, and not just in this season, but from my initial meeting with Dr. Clifton, her support and encouragement. Uh, God rest her soul, Rosette Graham, who didn't really get a chance to serve in this role as president very long before she went home to be with the Lord. But she was a tremendous encouragement. Just some of the women, some of them I don't even know their names, but many of them have been extremely encouraging and affirming, and even in some ways prophetic about this moment in time. Lott Carey has strategic priorities, which makes what I'm doing um, will help to make it a more of a seamless type of transition. So when I say that, what I mean is I won't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. My responsibility, as I see it, is to come in and help to further and advance and amplify those strategic priorities. Um, I believe that, as one of my professors says, that the expertise is in the room. And so part of my uh, leadership, I guess you would say, pedagogy, and even when I'm in a classroom, is I believe that it's important to be in conversation with people. And so, one of the things that I would, before I began planning what I want to do with global leaders, I have some ideas. And of course, this digital platform, I think, is one of the ways that we can connect and provide resources and support. But I would also be interested to hear what some of those needs are for some of our female leaders in global ministry. I talk often with Reverend Brenda Harewood, who
Mhm.
is the leader of the Guyana Missionary Baptist churches, and I know that some of the needs include equipping, training, education, empowerment, those kinds of things. But I would say at this point, because I have not really begun, have not stepped into this role just yet, I'm still attempting to be prayerful and discerning about what that will look like. And I think the easiest way to do it is to plug into these strategic priorities that are already there. Like Carey already has a major commitment and platform to human trafficking.
Yes,
That's
we
why
do.
we're wearing black. Thursdays in black. That would be something I'd like to see us amplify. And of course, as it relates to mentoring and as mentoring leaders, training leaders, and things like that would be some of the things that immediately come to mind. But I would really like to host some type of something like this with leaders, even um,
We'll
global
have
leaders,
to have.
some
We'll
kind of round table. I mean, the sky's the limit to what we can do. But
right.
I think a lot of it is one thing is important to have conversation first about how we can not just help them, because I'm not necessarily interested in paternalism, but how we can work in solidarity with women and be a blessing in this new assignment.
Amen to all of that. And so you already know that you have a great team that we, especially here in Wise, and I'm only going to speak for Wise because I'm a part of Wise.
Right.
We will continue to be the winds beneath your wings. We will be the
Praise
ears.
God.
We can support by being the ears to the ground for you and send information up the ladder to you and your team as they take as you take the stage and take the helm. And so, of course, we just bowl over with this opportunity. We're going to keep the connection about your role, your leadership, and bring it to the foundation of where we all stand, and that's on the Word of God. And so, you've mentioned some people who have been at the helm, who have walked before you. I'd love to know what is maybe your one top scripture that you stand on that gets you out of bed every morning. That whenever someone says, nope, can't come in this room. Nope, you're going to have to wait your turn. Nope, maybe another 12 years. Nope, maybe you have to write your own book because you can't be in mine. What is that scripture that keeps you like that?
I would say, I mean, I have a lot of favorite scriptures, but
Wait,
two,
wait, 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 wait. Hold on. Before you say them,
okay.
whoever hears these scriptures This is note taking, okay? This may be the digital couch, but we got to take notes.
Uh, there are a number of scriptures that really keep me grounded and that I tend to return to depending on what I'm dealing with. But I would say the two, actually, there are really more than two, but Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who infuses me with strength. Romans 8:28, and we know that in all things, God works together for the good of those that love God and those that are the called according to God's purpose. Philippians 1:6, he who has begun a good work in you will bring it to completion until the day of Jesus Christ. Those are the three that I would say to some degree anchor my life. They're not the only ones because in many instances it depends on what the situation is. But those certainly are three that readily come to mind when I think about some of my favorite scriptures.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And I know people have taken notes because they're popping up in on YouTube and on Facebook. Thank you very much. You will the people who take notes, your new title is, everyone in church, we have a title, right? What is the line that we have in line, Carey? Come on, say it with me. Everybody is somebody. If
Everybody's somebody. That's the line at our church.
Everybody is somebody. And so
Yep.
when you join the digital couch here at with Wise, you are the stream team. So shout out to my stream team for taking notes. I love that. It makes our work easier.
Many
So
hands, many hands. I tell my members all the time, many hands make work light.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Excellent. So thank you for the scriptures, and of course, if most of us already know them because they are so etched in our thinking. Now,
Right.
when you face any of these moments of, and we won't even call them adversities, they are the challenges that are set before us to really see how much we trust the God who has ordered our steps. And so when we see those challenges, and of course, even it's different for you who's been in ministry and been a leader in ministry for 26 years. And of course, then you've done work prior to that. Some people think that when a leader in your role comes up to an obstacle, that it's like, oh, like been there, done that. But I know that there are similar fears and similar, like, what am I going to do? Or maybe moments of angst, just like for someone, let's say, who's new in God, new in Christ, new in the church. When you come up to those moments, and sometimes moments, are we there?
I think we got disconnected for just a second.
Okay. Okay. I,
Can
yeah,
you
I
hear
see us
me?
back.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, good. You
Could you
know that.
repeat the question?
Sure, not a problem. So when we come
Okay.
upon those moments of where we in our walk we have to take a pregnant pause, where it's like, what am I going to do next? How do you respond to like an experience or a resistance of people who are like, so men usually handle it this way. I don't know if you'll be able to handle that. We constantly have to take care of women, or but you've shown up and you've showed out over these years. But I'm sure that there are still moments that people will kind of, let's say, give the side eye, like, let's see what's gonna happen. What is your response to that?
Well, I think that one of the things you have to realize when you're in a position like this or in male dominated positions or leadership in general, I mean, it's not just because you're a female in a leadership role, there's always resistance to leadership, always. Whether you're male or female, I think that women experience uh, multiple types of microaggressions,
Right.
if you will, because of the triplets that I named earlier: sexism, um, misogyny, patriarchy, and tradition. I would even add tradition and biblical literalism, because there are
Mm,
people who theologically believe that there are women who should not be in certain roles. That's a part
right,
of their theological belief. It's a part of their embedded theology.
right,
But so understanding that that is a part of the territory, there are certain things that just go with the territory, and understanding that helps with expectations. I also believe it helps with the way that we respond to the way that people interact with us or respond to us. One of my longtime colleagues and friends, who's now deceased, Dr. David Boyle, told me many years ago, don't take it personal. Now, that's not always easy, because people forget you do have feelings. And
right.
so sometimes people can be very rude. They can be act very ugly. They can be very disrespectful, and all of those things can be very hurtful. But um, learning to desensitize or depersonalize, I should say, the way that people respond to us, I think is critical, because so much of what we do, we need the energy and the passion and the resolve to keep moving forward. And if we are constantly experiencing the wind, being knocked out of our sails because somebody didn't like us, because somebody talked, you know, down to us, because somebody disrespected us, it will be very, very difficult to maintain momentum. And so I think that one of the things that's important, and I think about this often because it's been a lifelong journey. I mean, trial and error. There are times that I pass that test, sometimes I don't, because some things are more hurtful than others.
Mm,
But it's very important, if you're going to do your job and be effective, and not allow that to be a distraction, uh, to depersonalize some of those realities. The other thing I think that we have to do in leadership is sometimes we have to challenge things, and we have to open our mouth in ways that are appropriate, and speak up when the situation sometimes calls for it, or when the situation allows for it. And because, I think it was Zora Neale Hurston said that people will, and I'm paraphrasing, they will take your life and think you enjoyed it, or inflict pain and say that you enjoyed it. And so often, not only are women invisible, but we're also silenced. And I think that when we're in roles like this, we do have to challenge those instances from time to time. I'm not talking about just being, you know, um, resistant for no reason, but I think when the opportunity presents itself, and when we're in certain spaces and we sit at certain tables, we do have to challenge um, the ways that people interact with women and with people in leadership. And then, of course, the core value in my life is having a prayer life and having a team of intercessors that pray. I am a person who has a strong commitment to a devotional life. And it's one of the ways that I believe that God has sustained me in these roles, because I do have a commitment to attending the flame that's within. It's a non negotiable practice in my life. A practice of spiritual disciplines is so important, because it helps keep me grounded. It helps me when my heart is overwhelmed, when I am challenged, when my feelings are hurt, when I'm disappointed, all those things that go with leadership. Having that crucial link, as Dr. Howard Thurman would say, with the eternal God is a non-negotiable in my life. And it helps.
excellent,
It has given me the grace to endure and to stand. Now,
excellent.
if you were asking me pastorally, I would say that one of the ways that I believe resistance has been countered is through pastoral care. Um, because as a leader, you have to care for everybody. As a pastor, you can't just care for the people that like you. You have to care for the people that don't like you. You have to care for the people that didn't vote for you. Care for the people who are not always kind to you. and
Right.
and I would say that as a pastor, pastoral care has been indispensable in terms of dealing with those issues of resistance that I've encountered.
Excellent, excellent. And so prayer life, people who are in your corner, staying focused on the goal. And I'm paraphrasing. And thank you so much. I'm going to actually point out some of these. My stream team was doing that thing. I really appreciate it because again, we'll think of one thing to say, and then something else comes out, and it's just as powerful and poignant. But sometimes we just need a reminder. I said that? I did say that, right? So thank you very much. We are blessed during this year 2021, as we move out of some very dark and dismal times. We've stepped into the new year with some great leadership from our now Vice President Kamala Harris. We have you at the helm. We still have, and some people are going to have to drop some names in the chat so I can actually like call out some other names. We still have Stacey, Representative Stacey Abrams. Thank you. We have Representative Stacey Abrams. We still have Auntie Maxine, right? Auntie Maxine Waters, who is still ringing in from last year and the year before. There are now more women in the room. There are now more women who have taken notice, and the larger society is taking notice of what we bring to the table. There are a number of younger women who are coming up, and they're starting to see more of our faces in the room, more of our faces at the table. There are a number of things that are happening to young women, whether it be incarceration, whether it be other types of trauma pertaining to their relationships, pertaining to children, pertaining to economic poverty, emotional poverty. And when we see women sort of fly across the screen, especially in the last couple of weeks, artists, people who thought they had something to say, and then they wind up saying something, and then you're like, did you run that by your auntie? Did you run that by your grandmama? Did you really need to buy that thing? Like, do you have a house to live in? As we are moving towards raising the next generation, and I'm going to take a step back to when I came into Lott Carey after raising children. I came back about 10 years ago, and I asked, I think we were in New Orleans. That's when I came back. So this may have been 2011, maybe 2012 or so. And someone said in one of the big rooms, they said, well, the people of, let's say, this generation, would you stand up? And so it was like the elders. And I had remembered some of the people from like 20 years before. I'm like, oh my gosh, that person's still here. Amazing. And then they asked for my age group to stand up. And I stood up, and I was looking around, and I was looking to see who else in the room was of my age group. And as I said to you before, I said there may have been about 20 in the general session. So there must have been about 3,000 people in that room. And I said, wow, where are we? Now I'm tying that together. Now that there are more people in the room, there are more of us to look to you and to look to the leaders ahead of us and say, if you could do it, I could do it too. If you could be there, I could be there too. What's maybe one piece of sage advice that you would give to, let's say, my generation and the generation coming up before, to stay on the path? Because had it not been for you at this time, there may have been fewer of us to continue in Lott Carey. What would be, and it will, by default, it's going to be part of your mission to continue to grow down, right? We're trying to grow down the next generation of Lott Carey sojourners. But what would be that like sage wisdom that you would give to us to say, don't get off the train. Come on.
Yeah. You know, what Lott Carey is experiencing is not unique. Churches, denominations, organizations, and conventions are all experiencing what I believe is just the natural bell curve that you experience, life cycle
Right.
that you experience in churches and organizations. You have this beginning, and then you have this growth, and then you have a plateau, and then you have this decline that happens in churches and every other organization. And like Carey is not the only organization experiencing that. As you were talking about that, I was reminded of where I was in our congregation 26, maybe 30 years ago, when
Mm.
our congregation was also going through a decline. And I was struggling, to be honest, about whether or not I would remain at our church or move somewhere else. Because, you know, most of the time we want to be a part of something that's going somewhere. And when it looks like the train is slowing down and the train is not moving, then we're ready to get off or get on another train. And so I had made my decision that I was going to move my membership because I just felt like, you know, I had come to the end of my season there at the church. But
Mhm.
every Sunday that I would get up with a plan to go somewhere else, I never could make it. And so I went to the Lord about it. And the Lord said to me, "You have talked about the problem, but what have you done to be a part of the solution?"
Amen. Mm-hmm.
And the Lord instructed me to go back and be a part of the solution. Now, what happened, we didn't start, the growth didn't turn around at night, overnight.
Right.
People still left and went to other churches, but I went back and I decided to be a help to my pastor because I had just started in the ministry. I had no idea when I went back to help my pastor and serve that 5 years later or 6 years later, he would have a massive heart attack in a restaurant and that I would end up actually being elected to serve that congregation. But all of it started because I decided to stay there and try to do what I could to help.
Amen.
Now, all of the responsibility is not on the people. Um, the organizations, the institutions have to be willing to make adjustments, to engage in self critique, to invite other people to the table and engage them in conversation, to think about ways and explore ways that we can be relevant. But you can't always fix a thing or make an organization or institution better, not always from the outside. And I think one of the things we have to do is think about Lott Carey's mission. Lott Carey's, I'm a part of Lott Carey because I believe in the work that Lott Carey does,
Amen.
not because everybody in your age group is there. I would like to see more people in your age group. In fact, I'd like to see more millennials in Lott Carey. And we have several high capacity millennials and young adult leaders who are leading corporations and who have major strengths and major gifts. But we also have to create space for people to use those gifts and use those skills. And so I would say, you know, before you abandon the ship, consider whether or not the mission is worth preserving. I
Mm.
believe Black Carey has a mission that's worth preserving, that's worth supporting, that's worth investment. And that's why I am a part of Lott Carey and why I'm committed to Lott Carey. But I also think that we have to be realistic and realize that all of it is not necessarily on the person, that the institution must be willing to engage in evaluation and self critique so that we can remain relevant uh, and serve the present age.
Excellent. Excellent. And so that reaching across the aisle has to
Right.
come from both groups. The
Yeah.
those who have the strengths, uh, like the time, the talent, and the tithe. Someone type that in. The time, the talent, and the tithe need to reach across to say, hey, we are willing to donate this time, talent, and tithe to the organization. And then the organization has to say, we are ready for something new, different, to strengthen us up, to polish us even more, so that we could shine, be the light in the dark room, not just
Right.
here, on this continent, but on continents across waters and other political boundaries.
And find ways to give people opportunity to do something that gives them a sense of purpose. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be in a leadership role. I mean, I say to my members all the time, when people want to help, don't tell them we have enough help. Give them something to do. If it's nothing but folding a piece of paper, these are people who bring energy and
Right.
passion. You don't want to tell them we don't need your help. And so we also have to be willing to transition with grace. We have to be willing to widen the net,
Hmm.
and be more inclusive in terms of who we engage and who we allow to help us, particularly people that are committed to the mission and vision.
Excellent. Those people who are, if you are a Lott Carey person, then you know what is going to be happening in the next 3 weeks. 3 weeks, about 3 weeks,
About three
three
weeks,
weeks from
yes.
now, 3 weeks
Yeah.
from now, we will be, as a matter of fact, would that be exactly 3 weeks from now? That we'll be some people will be sitting,
In
some
the
people
building.
will be sitting in the building. Can someone type in the
In the building.
building?
In
In
the
the
building.
building. Right. So August, let me get my date straight. So August 10th through the 12th, August
Right.
10th through the 12th will be the, let's all say it together, the 124th annual session of the Lott Carey Baptist Farm Mission Convention. There will be some people in a building in Atlanta, Georgia, to stand up, to bring biblical pom poms, if you will, and shouts of adulation for you taking the seat. Those people who are not able to travel, I will be seeing you all online. We'll be seeing you all online at the daily classes. We will be having classes. So make sure that you do sign up at lottcarey.org. Please go and register. All of the churches have been given the information. We're not done with Dr. Stewart. I'm just taking a little commercial break as we wrap up, because I don't want to forget to say it, right? Because we need people, we need people to continue to get this word, right? So, and our theme, as I've done the homework, I believe I have done, is transforming the world through missions. So that is our theme for the year, and we are looking forward to either being in the physical building or being in the digital building. We are very, very, very thankful of those who have kept connected, at least here, the space that I participate in. And that is the Lott Carey Wise Facebook page, and who have been here on the, not just the first Thursdays where we've had our Lott Carey Wise digital couch conversations, and this again is episode 6. So excited! But we've also partnered with the first day of the month, right? The first day of the month, which is our red letter questions from Christ. And we've had amazing moments of meditation the first Thursdays of the month with ministers from around the country who've blessed us. We've also, of course, participated in the 31 days of prayer here in the Lott Carey Wise Facebook group. And Dr. Clifton, if I'm missing anything, I know you were going to drop it in the chat so I can read it off. I'm going to get a final word from Dr. Gina Stewart, and then we're going to close up, and I'm going to give you all what is called a CTA, because I'm not letting you go without giving you something to do. So that'll be my call to action. You guys, we have to wrap this up really well. So Dr. Stewart, would you like to, you actually answered like all of my questions and then some, because one of the questions that I did say, or I did have, is when you began your career many years ago, did you ever imagine that you would be the leader in this convention? You didn't even think you were going to be the leader of that church.
Right.
You were just
Right.
I'm trying not to leave. I'm trying to walk out of here, and the Lord just won't let me go. Let me go back and help, and then look what happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
any words?
I never would have guessed that I would be in this role. I was invited to participate in Lott Carey because of the Pastoral Excellence Program. Dr. Goatley had just become the executive secretary of like Carey. And as I said, one day I was sitting in the hairdressers in the hair salon, and he called me and asked me would I be interested in serving as a team leader for a group of pastors. And of course, that transformed my life.
Hmm.
Going on that
The mission.
participating in a pastoral excellence program and working in those multiple immersion contexts alongside host pastors was literally transformative. And as a part of that commitment for participating in that program, because it was all expense paid, the only thing we had to pay for, because of the generosity of a grant from Eli Lilly, was
Right.
the application fee. And we traveled to several different countries. But one of the things they asked us to do was to be committed to Lott Carey. And I remember the first convention that I attended was in Louisville, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Peterson was transitioning out as the president of Lott Carey. And Dr. Awkward, I believe, was transitioning in. I believe. I may have them mixed up. But what I do remember is standing in the back of that hotel, and I was listening to all of the great things that Lott Carey was doing. And I heard Dr. Peterson say that Alfred Street was giving Lott Carey $25,000. And I stood there and I was just amazed that a church would invest back then that kind of money to missions. And I remember
Right.
going to my hotel room and getting on my knees
Hmm.
in my hotel room, asking God to bless our church so that we could give like that. That was the only ambition I had when I came to Lott Carey. I had no ambition to be an officer. I had no ambition to be on a stage. I believed in the mission, and I wanted our church to partner and invest in this kind of work. But of course, many are the plans in a woman's heart, but it's the purpose of the Lord
Yeah.
that prevails. And so here I am. Thanks be to God for this opportunity. But yeah, I certainly never would have, I didn't come with that ambition. Um,
Right.
but, when your steps are ordered by the Lord, as my friend Reverend Tracy Blackman says, I'm amazed by what a yes to God will do and where a yes to God will lead you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm going to take a moment to say thank you to some of our stream team here. Sister Deborah Thomas, who has been in the chat since
That's my
before.
church member.
Come on, Christ missionary.
And she
Y'all
can
have showed up.
sing. She can really sing. She can really sing.
Lovely. Sister Ashley Henderson, Angie Love, Latanya Ship.
That's my church member,
All
Ashley.
right. Yeah, they're coming through. So we have a Sister Paula Jones from Frontline Missionary Ministries, Bishop Norman Hutchins in Dover, Delaware. We got North Carolina, Facebook
All
user.
right.
I told you, you have to let me know what your name is. I'm going to call you Facebook user. Of course, Dr. Angelina Clifton has been showing up and showing out as the stream team leader from Fountain Baptist Church in Summit, New Jersey. LaShundra Garner,
That's my
Denise
church member.
Daniel. Okay. Sister Jean Greer, excellent. Someone said that they love the fact that you are a proponent of Sabbath rest.
Okay.
We all need that Sabbath rest, and it is so important. Someone said the triplets running interference against women, right? So you said misogyny, patriarchy,
Sexism, patriarchy. Yeah.
yes, yes. And I would have actually, I was trying to say the trifecta,
Yeah.
not the trifecta we want, but the
Right.
trifecta we doubt. So I have to give a shout out to my mom is in the house. Thank you, Mom. That was the phone call I got before. Thank you, Mom. I love my mother who always shows up. Um, yes, and so Dr. Angelina Clifton and Deborah Thomas were also reminding us that there were not just women but also men who have paved the way. Excellent. Uh, let's see. Cynthia Hightower.
Yeah, that's my church member.
Excellent. Right. Listen, they showed up. Terry Smith, Sister Terry Smith, and let me just see if there's any new. Anthony Johnson.
That's a
Anthony
church member.
Johnson. Okay,
Deacon Anthony Johnson. And he's really excited about coming to Lott Carey. We were talking this past Sunday. And he was like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. So,
oh, beautiful. I need everybody to make sure you go over to where? to YouTube. I do not, when I log off of here, I do not want to see 311 subscribers anymore. We need a clear, like at least 350. At least everyone go over there. So Dr. Angela Clifton also mentioned the microaggressions that we spoke about, micro invalidations that occur, micro stressors. Make sure that we depersonalize because that is very real. Don't take everything personally. Keep it moving. I usually say get in, get out, and move on. Let it in one ear, out one ear, keep it moving. All right. And so, oh, yes, just the last point is how Dr. Clifton was talking about amazing women in ministry, Dr. Copeland, Dr. Flake, Dr. Hale, Dr. Weaves, Dr. Gilks, and the list goes on and on. Excellent, excellent.
So many.
Yeah, so many. So thank you very much for, I think these are like the best. Yes. Oh, and so someone said, I remember you telling the story about ASBC. What's that? ASBC some time ago and have adopted that prayer as my own to give to like Carey significantly. Do you recognize what is ASBC? If the person, maybe it's Alpha Street. Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right. So thank you. So if anyone, if you have any other questions, drop them really quickly. But if not, I want to say thank you, 1,000 thank yous to our own Dr. Gina Stewart, who is not just a part of our Facebook family, but is a part of our Lott Carey family, and she will be the new leader. Instead of say it like that. So we cannot wait until we either see you either in the building. I know there's only a couple of seats available, so those people who are trying to head down there, you need to get on with that registration. If not, we will see you on the digital convention space. I'm sure there will be some definite streaming through that week. If you have not registered for your Lott Carey for the classes, please do so because I'm going to be helping with that as well. I love that work. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Lott Carey Wise Digital Couch, which will come up in a couple of weeks. We might have one right before convention. If not, I'll at least pop on and say, are you there? Are you in the room? Could you not wait with us but 1 hour?
Can I mention that the location for persons who may be thinking of coming is to the President's Night, which is the night of where the president preaches and also of the election or installation of the new president, is Green Forest Community Church.
Green Forest Community. Someone type it in the chat.
Dr. Emery Berry is the pastor.
Okay.
And they are allowing some in-person attendance. If they're members of CMBC and they have not, or they'd like to be a member of CMBC that night, they need to be a part of the in-person attendance, they can call our church because we're creating a list to give a master list to the church.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Or contact Lott Carey, I suppose.
Sure. Thank you. So once again, thank you so much, Dr. Clifton, for putting Green Forest Community Baptist Church. And so last but not least, make sure you stay tuned with us here on we have 2 platforms now, Lott Carey Wise Facebook page, which is a private Facebook page. If you know of someone who's not already in it, please invite them in. And myself or Dr. Clifton or Reverend Robin K. Monk Self will admit you in. If not, please make sure you click that notification bell on Lott Carey TV on YouTube. So every time we go live, we will pop up there and you'll get a notification. We thank you all. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. And we will see you on the next episode of the Lott Carey Wise Digital Couch. Good night. And remember, be mission minded.
God bless. Good night.